A lot of people have trouble shooting because they're shooting in a garage, they're shooting in a small space. I've seen people paint their studios gray just to cut out reflections from the white walls. And I show you how I use a small studio to my advantage to get beautiful, beautiful work. You have to adjust your thinking just a little bit, but you actually have a huge benefit because I create small spaces with V-flats. I'll block people in when I'm shooting in a large studio to take advantage of what you already have natively in your small studio. And there's little tips and tricks that will really blow your mind that make soft light so easy in small spaces. So I'm going to show you guys how to shoot in small spaces. It's one of the questions I get asked a lot. I grew up in England, and if anyone's been to England, there's a lot of small spaces. So I've seen a lot of people paint their studios dark colors to try to get rid of the light bouncing around. But I want to show you guys how you can use that to your advantage. We're in a mezzanine. It doesn't even have 8-foot ceilings, so 7 foot. And I've got this question a lot. What do I do when I don't have a big studio and I want to shoot in small spaces? What I normally do when I go into a big studio, I'll set up V-flats on the side, and I actually try, and you'll notice this with your clients too, they don't like being in this giant open space where the entire crew is watching and they feel kind of like, oh, I got to occupy this whole space. So when you bring them into a small, tight little world, they also feel much more comfortable. So I'm going to show you guys as many little variations and show you the advantages you have if you shoot in a small space. I'm going to shoot my Nikon. Now, I've put my 50mm on. I usually shoot with the 24-70, but if I'm in a small space, what I tend to do is instead of walking my feet back, I zoom out, and then I end up at 24mm, and we get so much distortion. So I force myself to make it work by putting my 50mm on. Sometimes you can do the 35, but I prefer the 50mm. I've got my Elinchrom Rotolux and my Oliphant backdrop, and our model Anton, and I'm going to run through some poses and adjust the light so you see what we do here. This light, I've set it up the way that everybody does, pointing straight at the model. I've turned the pack on, so I don't even know where I'm at, and I'm not going to meter. My aperture is at 5.6, shutter speed 180th of a second, and my ISO is at 200. I'm just going to start there and see where we're at with the light. Perfect. And at this point, the pose is not very important. All right, you'll see that's way overexposed, so I'm just going to turn the pack down. Let's go down a stop and see how that looks. Perfect, Anton. That's still a little bit bright for me, so I'm going to go down a little bit. So one of the things you'll notice is this actually already looks kind of good. And it's because the light is hitting him from here, and it's bouncing off the ceilings, and it's bouncing off the other side here. This is what I'm talking about when you have to use the small space to your advantage, especially if you have white walls. Don't black out your space, don't paint your ceilings gray, just leave it, and you can use the positioning of your lights to really make a beautiful shot. Now, one of the things I wanted to do is, if you look on this side of Anton's face, there's a shadow there. I want to bring that down. I want to make a very, very soft light because that will also work well for women. And I'll show you a variation that works also for kind of that hard light on men. So first thing, as I always do, I'm going to feather this light. Now, in small spaces, the huge benefit you have here is now Anton is getting the edge, the beautiful edge of this light, but most of this is pointing at this wall, and it will bounce back, and you'll see how that softens out the image. There we go. We already get a more even spread of light across his face. So how do we make it more directional? Let's say we want to have that hard light that comes in on Anton to give him just a little bit more of face shape, because we have light, it's sort of flat at the moment. So let's have a look. It looks like that. All right, and we might as well pose you here. Let's put a foot up there. Very cool men's pose. Yeah, perfect, Anton. That's great. And I'm letting Anton let his personality show here because he has plenty of that. Perfect. Good. There we go. Great. Good. And then just bring that hand towards you a little bit, the one with your watch on. Yeah, perfect. That's great. And lean it nice towards me. Yeah, good. And then bring that foot a little forward. Yeah, and use that to lean, put your weight on that arm. Perfect. That's great. Good. So that's quite nice, even light. What I'm going to do is, one of the things that you do when you're in a small space, the closer you move this light, the less light is bouncing off that wall and coming back as a ratio. Don't make it too complicated. I'm going to show you how that works. So I'm going to move this light much closer in. And again, I'm feathering it, so it's pointing away from the model, and Anton is still being hit by the soft edge of this light. So the light is now so much closer to him, so I'm probably going to have to turn the power of the pack down, and we're going to get the distance between him and the light here, and him and the light that bounces back is quite a lot. So that's going to make the shadows darker on this side and much brighter on this side. And I'll show you guys how that looks. All right, same pose, Anton, perfect. That's great. Give me that lifestyle laugh. Ha ha ha, perfect. That's great. So now, bring your chin up a little bit. We're going to catch that light. So here, we're really running into the small spaces benefit. We actually had light that was coming too much from the top. You'd never think that was going to be a problem if you're shooting in a 7-foot ceiling. But I've also chosen a sitting pose. I used to shoot in a tiny space like this when I first moved to New York, and I was restricted to a lot of sitting poses, and it works just fine. All right. That looks really nice. So, but you'll see in this shot, you have a lot more definition, a lot more shape on the face because you have that kind of Rembrandt light that comes across. So if I move it in even closer, let's see what happens. We can make it more edgy as we go. That's great. Let's do the same lifestyle laugh there, Anton, perfect. And lean it towards me a little bit more. You can move the apple box. Perfect. That's great. Yeah. Good. Super simple. Very nice. So you see, we get a more edgy kind of light. I'm going to go back to the previous light setup, and I'm going to show you guys the modification I do for men. Makes it super simple. So just remember, I haven't even put up V-flats. This is so great. You don't need to get them for a space like this because you can just use your walls. You can get a black piece of fabric if you want to do what we're going to do now, or just use your circular reflector or a small piece of card. So I'm going to put the light back to where we were. And again, the light is spreading across onto this wall and bouncing back at Anton. If you wanted to make it, let's say you're shooting a beautiful female with maybe a little older with wrinkles or a lot of texture, or an older man, you can move, and we'll actually do this, you can move your subject closer to the wall and your light closer in, and you get that light bouncing back and really filling the space and making everything super soft. So, but first, I want to show you guys what happens, the men's modification that I make to give his face more shape. Okay, perfect. And lean towards me a little bit. Just bring your foot further towards me. Yeah, perfect. That's great. Good. Good. So that's really, really soft. Beautiful. And in fact, if you've seen my work, you've seen that this is a look I do very often. And you're really harnessing the power of the fact that everything's so close. And I would do this exact same thing if I had a huge studio. So I'm going to take a piece of, G, would you just grab me a piece of the black foam core there? Yeah, bigger one, it's fine. So this is a cutoff from, and I'll have you stand here and hold it, please. This is a cutoff from a V-flat. It's beat up like it should be. And Justin is just going to pull that right in close, right in close, right in close. And the closer you put this negative fill, the more shadow you're going to get on this side. Because as this moves back, let me just move you back, less of the negative fill is hitting him, and he's still getting some of that light bouncing off the wall over here. Now, don't worry about, there's a corner here. Don't worry about that. Any little feature that makes your space different or unusual, you have like a kind of, whatever wall you have, if you have a slanted ceiling, all of those things add intrigue and make it kind of more interesting. You don't need to worry about it being so perfect, as long as you understand this light is not hitting him almost at all. He's so on the edges of it. So most of what's happening is spilling into here and back. So we're making a really big, beautiful spread light. It's also hitting the ceiling somewhat, and I'll do a little modification to show you guys how that changes. All right, so for now, bring that in, perfect. Yeah, that's great. And you'll see that the black is actually in the frame, but that doesn't bother me because the backdrop is easy to retouch out. Perfect. Good, and then just lean it towards me. Yeah, great. Perfect. Not going to make it too complicated here. That's great. So just by bringing this in, and G, let's just walk it out. Come stand over here. Exact same pose, yeah. That's great. You see the difference between bringing that black in and having it not in the frame. And perfect. And Anton, just bring your face bring your chin here. Yeah, good. And then look at me with your eyes. Perfect. You can accentuate the chin even more. Bring it, yeah, further. Good. Yeah, wonderful. And when you do that, bring your body around that way too. Yeah, great. Super simple. So, Justin, if you bring that in again, the negative fill. Perfect. So when we put that in, we basically don't get any bounce from that side. Good. Good, and let's make it a little livelier there. Yeah, perfect. It's like you've done this before. That's great, Anton. Good. So I want to make this light even a little bit more edgy, and I'm going to use the small space to make that work for me. So Anton, bring that foot down. Yeah, and what I get people to do, I cheat. If I'm in a low space, I just pose them low. So you can bring your arm, like rest your elbow there. Perfect, and that still looks good. Perfect. So I've got a bit of, I've got him a bit lower, so I've got some height to play with, and I'm just going to angle this down as far as I can. I'm going to squeeze it right into the stand here. There we go. I'm going to just add it, bring it in over here, and I'm going to see now. I'm going to get a little bit more directional light. It's going to feel a little bit higher up. So just lean in way down, Anton. Yeah, perfect. That's great. And just bring your head, shoulders up a tiny bit again. Yeah, perfect. Good. So that's going to be a little bit too bright because the light is much closer to him. So I'm going to turn the pack down probably half a stop. Remember, if the light is too bright, turn it down. If it's too dark, turn it up. Very simple. Okay, and then Justin, I think I'm going to try it without that. So now, most of the light is coming out of here and down here. So we're going to have some bounce back up from the floor. If your floors are white, it might be a good idea just to throw a black fabric down because it's quite low to the ground. Also for shooting children, I just lay a black fabric on the floor because they're so close to the ground that you're going to get that light bouncing up. In this case, we have quite dark floor, so it's not such a big deal. Perfect. Good, that looks really nice, and you get a bit more of that high key look. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to have Anton cheat his face towards the light. Yeah, perfect, good. And then it's going to get more. That's actually really nice. And then we're going to play around. Justin, grab another piece of bounce, and I'll just see how it looks bouncing on the other side. Now, what I'm going to have you do, Justin, instead of holding it upright, hold it sideways. So the long other way, sideways. So turn it like this. Yeah, and take the black side. Perfect. So that's going to, and then hold it about, so the middle of it is higher, 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 like this. If we hold it about there, we're going to cut out most of the light that's hitting the side of his face there. Perfect. Great, and make it friendly there. Yeah, perfect. Good. And just that hand can be more beautiful here, the one in the front. Just, yeah, exactly, that's good. We're shooting our Apple Watch commercial here. Perfect. But that's really nice, high key light, much broader. Perfect. And the further I bring this light back, the broader it's going to get. So let me just make a little modification. I'll slide this. And you see, I'm not really restricted by the small size of the studio. In fact, now you're going to see something that I have happen all the time, which is my modifier is in the frame. And I just retouch it out. And that looks really nice. And Justin, flip that over to the white side. And the same thing. And we're going to just, again, we're in such a small space, I'm making the bounce even tighter on him. So there's really nothing I can't do in the small space. Perfect. Good, and bring that elbow further forward on your knee. Perfect, that's great, Anton. Lovely. I really like that. So now we're getting almost no bounce off the ceiling because that light's pointing down, and we're just using a tiny little space here to make it work. So shooting in small spaces, I want to have a look through these images and kind of see where we ended up. And again, I've made some selections already, and I'm just going to have a look through and see what images stand out to me right away. And as we go through here, I mean, we just did this, so you'll see the kind of lighting modifications we made. And it looks good. And I think I added a little bit of green or something in the shadows. Or did I change the white balance? Is that why this image is so much greener? Let me see. Well, there we go. So let me make my selection here. And again, I just go through these really, really quickly and I make my select. So that one that had the tint on it, I quite like that. I think that's more exposure. So I'm going to give that 4 stars. And let's see, I want 2 images from this shoot. And I use this little sidebar just to have a quick look, because I can see from kind of his pose and everything, if I'm going to like the image, I don't need to kind of put every image up big on the screen. You know, when I'm shooting a lot, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. So I like this pose, and I've already cropped it in. Yeah, perfect. Good. So let me select my, give that 4 stars. Let me select my 4 stars only. Perfect. And this, you can see, if you look across his face here, let me zoom in a little bit. We only have one light, but it looks like, and you can actually see in the catch light here, that light is bouncing back from that wall. And this is what I'm talking about. When we're shooting in the small spaces, we can use this to our advantage to create beautiful soft light. I mean, this looks like, you know, you'd have to build a giant wall of V-flats to get a beautiful bounce like this, but he's quite close to that wall. And when we bring in this light from the right, we get this beautiful spread light. He's getting us feathered light from this side, and there's no real hotspots. Like, this is definitely an acceptable kind of very natural looking highlight on his face. And I wouldn't even retouch that out because it looks very natural, but it's not one of those hard hotspots. So I think I like this image a lot. Let's see, I think I added, yeah, I gave it almost a 1.5 stops more power, more light. I'll show you how it looks when just felt a little bit underexposed. I tend to shoot everything underexposed. You see that? And because, again, we've got our shadows here filled in, if I add a little bit, we're not getting those horrible burnt out spots in the shadows on his face. So I don't think there's much that needs to be done here. I usually can play around with the shadows and just kind of play around with editing those, but I'm not going to do that in this case. I'm just going to reset that. And I'll leave the midtones as well. I played around with the white balance a little bit, particularly the tint, because I wanted it to feel a little bit more kind of green. I think it works well, like this green background here, it works well to offset his skin. And as far as post-production, I mean, we're already in this really good place. So this is probably as much as I'm going to do to this image. If I go ahead and reset that back to the raw, you see it's a little bit dark and moody, and the adjustments, which is just that exposure adjustment and a little bit of work in the white balance, is giving me a look that I really like. So when I take this to post-production, it's going to look really good. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy these settings over to this image. And you can see it's actually, I used Command-Shift-C and Command-Shift-V. And you see now it's actually a little bit overexposed. So I'm going to match the exposures. And I'm just going to look over on this side here to see if my exposures are going to match up. And I think about there is where we're good on this image. So I've added 0.4 of a stop. Again, very, very little contrast. And because this image, I think we were a little more direct on him, although this highlight slider doesn't really do very much, but we're just getting rid of that highlight a tiny little bit. And again, I'll compare that to what we were in the beginning. We added a little bit of that green tint in the white balance, and that's pretty much everything I'm going to do here. So shooting in small spaces, remember, use the fact that you have giant walls right next to you to your advantage to create this beautiful, very, very simple soft light. You know, you don't have to set up V-flats. You don't have to do any of this because you already have your walls.